Hey guys, welcome to Jammin' and Jammies. I'm Megan Barker. We are sitting down with some of our favorite songwriters and industry leaders. We're going to find out how they got where they are and learn some valuable insights into the music industry. You can watch the interviews online or tune into the podcast. We also do a live stream every Sunday night on Instagram, so just check out jamminandjammies.com for all the details on everything. Today, we are sitting down with LeAnn Phelan. LeAnn has an impressive resume, you guys, very extensive. Most recently, she spent 5 years being the co-head of creative at ASCAP, where she created the GPS program. And she has since created her own company called LP Creative Therapy, where she, quote, helps creators create. I love that, with one-on-one consulting and workshops. Obviously, a lot to talk about. So let's welcome her. LeAnn, how you doing?
Megan, you are so good at this. I'm good. I'm good.
I only practiced it like 5 times before you got on. It's fine.
It's awesome. You got it dialed in, lady. I love it.
Oh, thanks so much. Okay, well, I'm so excited that we are finally sitting down to chat. I know we've spent some time together over the last few months. I have participated in some of LP Creative Therapy's workshops, and they really are amazing. This is stuff I wish was around 10 years ago when I was first, kind of starting out in music. So, do you want to just start at the beginning and tell everyone about where you're from and how you got into music?
Wow. Okay. Yes. So nobody's going to know where this is, but I am from a small town in West Tennessee called Trenton, Tennessee.
I know where that is.
You do. Oh, that's right. We talked about this. You do know where that is. Um, and I grew up there. It is my home and all of that, but I have been in Nashville for so long that this is really my home now. um so gosh, how to condense everything. I actually started out singing. I had an amazing vocal teacher in another little small town called Bells, Tennessee, and his name was Joe Kincaid. He passed away when I was a senior in high school, which was really significant in my life because he had just been the catalyst for exposing me to a bigger world. If you think about it, you're from a small town and you don't have internet and that kind of thing. How do you know really what's out there? So he really showed me that through music. And as a matter of fact, I was a senior in high school, and he drove me to an audition in Memphis, Tennessee before I graduated, and I got that job. So I was working in Memphis every weekend, and I thought I was so cool. And I, that just kind of set me off on that path.
Yeah.
So long story short, I mean, I did a lot of singing anywhere I could, and wound up at Belmont because it was one of the few schools where you could study music and get a business degree. And I ended up um, having a connection with a rock legend named Steve Winwood. And if you don't know who he is, look him up because he's been a hit songwriter and hit artist since he was 16 years old, and had an amazing career. And he married a friend of mine, and so that was my connection with him. And I got to not only sing at their wedding, but I got um, basically audition for his band. And he went out on a tour. He is the artist behind Higher Love, and it was a world tour. And I got to go as his background singer, so that was pretty amazing at 21 years old. So fast forward a little bit more, I think I wasn't really cut out for the long haul on the road. I kept doing it till I was about 28 or 29. And then I got in on the business side of music and was really led. And that's something we can talk about today. Um, is really trying to tune into your path, your individual path, because I did not set out to become a publisher, and it ended up being such an amazing fit for me, for my personality, for my skill set, for my um, uh, ear for music at that time because I came from pop music and country kind of became more pop in the 90s. And that, you can't plan these things. And a lot of times in class, when I'm talking to you guys, I'll talk about how you can do all this work in your career and just a little bit of magic has to happen on top of that. And that was one of those things for me because I did not, like I said, I listened to a voice to contact a person that I went to school with who happened to be Steve Markland. He hired me as a receptionist at Windswept Pacific. And that's where I learned about publishing from Steve and just being there with some of the most amazing songwriters in the world. And I kind of kept going from there. But at the business part, I was in publishing, went over to start Combustion with Chris Farron and Ken Levitan. From there, I went to Sony to do A&R. From there, I went to American Idol to be kind of a preliminary judge. And then I also managed songwriters and producers for them. And then I went to ASCAP. And then I started my own company, which is actually called LP Creative. And it's a management side. And then the creative therapy side came about last year during the pandemic. And now the podcast is over. Thank you very much. So long. I don't know how to say all that,
There is no
So,
need to put, 15 or 20 years or whatever it is in just a paragraph. And I got to be honest, I kind of don't even know where to go after you list all these experiences that you had. Where do I start? I mean, I- where do I
well,
start?
the here's the thing. The thread for me is that I have always been around songwriters,
Yeah.
as a publisher, as a A&R person at a label, as a writer, producer, manager, and especially at ASCAP. And now my clients have been songwriters in the management world. So that is really the thread for me. And I just I don't know. I've been thinking a lot lately about authenticity and having all of these amazing new writers and artists in the creative therapy workshops. We're all after the same thing. Like everybody wants to be successful. Everybody either wants to be a successful writer or a successful artist writer. And what is that thing that is the glue or the gateway to getting where we want to get in that endeavor? And it sounds so simple, but I think it's really what it is. It's being the genius of you, finding that authenticity within yourself. And I think about that even on my side of the fence, because my set of experiences and all of that and the people that I've been lucky enough to work with and help when I didn't even really know what I was doing, but I was just following the instincts. All of those things kind of culminate into this unique experience that I'm having even now with writers, and I'm trying to help mentor and guide them through my own experiences. But I really think that with a lot of the guests we've had on the workshop, that is the similar story. That's the thread of the story that these successful people that come on, that's what they talk about. They basically are I think people are trying to learn the craft at first, and then they get comfortable enough in that to just go, I'm going to do what I like now.
Yeah.
I don't want to follow this or that or try to be, I'm trying to think of the most success, Bruno Mars just came out with a new record. So I'm not trying to be Bruno Mars. I'm not trying to be, um, uh, you know, anybody else but me.
Yeah.
And that's that's where the courage part comes in, because I think we're all a little bit maybe we're all not like this. Maybe it's just me, but I know I have a little too much of, what are people going to think about this? I don't know if and I'm getting over that. Honestly, the more that
I
I do
think
this,
most creative people have a lot of insecurity like that.
I mean, I wonder, I can't remember where I heard this, but it was something like this. It's like in your 40s, um, you you don't worry as much about what people think. In your 50s, you don't care what they think. And then in your 60s, you realize they never were thinking about you.
Ugh,
It was something like that, but said a lot more eloquently. And I wish I could give credit to whoever's
yeah.
idea that was. But I think we all just I think social media makes this difficult for us because you see stuff on there and sometimes it makes you feel funny, even if it's somebody you like who's accomplished something great. There's a little thing in there like, oh, am I doing enough? Or do you feel like that?
I do, and I really think though that not everyone's like that. I think it's highly ambitious people like you, LeAnn, and people that are hungry and creative, that feel like they're not doing enough. I feel like that all the time, but I also feel like there's not enough hours in the day. So we must be working hard if there's not enough hours in the day, you know?
Yeah, I mean, if consciously I catch myself feeling like that, I know that it's not um, real. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
But I think when we're just scrolling
yeah.
and that kind of thing, and artists are so much better at just being comfortable with putting themselves out there. But I think the competitiveness is kind of unnecessary because that sometimes causes more of a lack mentality, even with
Yeah.
what I can accomplish as an artist. And I just don't think that's it because there are, you don't, one person doesn't get successful musically and as a consumer that is the only record that I listen to. No, I listen to all these other things depending on what mood I'm in. So I don't think there's as much reason for that
There's
lack
there's
consciousness.
room for everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just because I think we're all trying to, and I'm speaking, we're all like the people that I'm around the most, and I think that you're around the most. We're all trying to crack the new code, and it's I think the only way to do that is to do your personal work and dig as deep as you can into you and this sounds so cheesy, but you're a snowflake. You're unlike anyone else. And so you've
Yeah.
got to be comfortable with expressing that. It's like you're unlike anyone else, but whatever your deepest emotion is, people are going to respond to that because we're also all the same in a certain way. We're unique, but we're all the same.
It makes perfect sense. You're speaking absolute logic. And I'm really glad that you're talking about all of this because I do feel like part of what you do, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it might be kind of like therapy because you do have to kind of you work with songwriters and you carry them through each day and how to get from A to B and there's highs and lows and it's a very emotional thing that we do working in music, I think.
you know, I really, really, really feel called and feel overjoyed to hold space for that. And I appreciate this. That's the biggest compliment that you could give me. Um, and the reason I called this part of the business creative therapy was because one of the people I was meeting with said that. So what happened was back in April of 2020, I guess we kind of shut down at the end of March. And in April, I was managing an artist that we had just worked so hard and put together this amazing video and had this marketing plan lined up and all of this. And of course, everything just, it seemed like it didn't matter in April. And for me, I saw all of these people doing their thing online for free. If you were a chef, you were showing people how to make linguine in the kitchen, or if you were a cello player, you were on your balcony playing cello for free. And so my instinct was just to put out this flyer, um, that just said, let's keep your creative momentum going. I'll meet with you for free in April. And it did take me back to my ASCAP days, because I was thinking of people that didn't have a team. My artist had a team around him, a really solid team, but so many people didn't have that. And that must have felt even worse. So I floated it out there, and the first person that responded, I just hit my email list. And one of my friends, who I respect so much as an artist and songwriter, who also has a podcast called The Love Freak, Courtney Cole, was the first person that wrote me back. And because when you do something like that, it's a little like, oh my gosh, what did I just hit send on? And I was kind of sitting on my couch going, oh, I hope that, again, with the what are people going to think?
Yeah.
Oh God. Anyway, Courtney wrote me back within like 15 minutes and said, I would love to meet with you. And it just that first bit of validation for me was like, oh my God, I love her so much. And then other people. So what happened then was I got really booked up in April. And so I extended it into May. And by the way, a lot of people at NSAI think that's how you and I got hooked up. If I remember correctly, Megan, was maybe through NSAI.
I actually think I saw someone post about the workshop you did. I think it was the one where Carly Pierce was there.
Oh, right, right, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I
Well,
slid into your DMs after that.
gotcha. Carly was so amazing, but the NSAI people did help a lot and send people my way. And so then I was like, I really want to keep doing this. And I still had clients I needed to, work for. So I kind of started the workshops. Um, so now I'm getting ready to do my fourth workshop, which is kind of a combination of, you mentioned Carly Pierce coming on. Um, I I'm trying to I'm trying to provide that link for people that feel like they don't have an open door in the music business, you know, and so they can come into the workshop, build community within the group, because, only people that are serious about this are paying money to do a workshop, and they really want to be there and they're committed. And it's so awesome because the way that it goes down, there's just such an um, openness and supportive community there. But I also like to get to know the group and then bring in people from the industry that I think will help that particular group so much. The other thing that's happening is, as I'm doing more of this, I have certain things that I want to provide as a mentor and a guide through this, that I think are really helpful and important, and kind of things like what we've already talked about, which is, your personal work and how authentic can you be. And, this is not, it's not, I'm not teaching people how to write songs because I'm not a songwriter, but I'm teaching them what people like me looked for in
Yep.
songwriters, and, what we wanted out of that person before we were going to sign them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a really fun perspective.
I'm so glad that you're talking about that because there's so much more to making it in this business than just being talented or becoming a great songwriter. It's really like an X factor thing too. You have to have all these things to be a star or to be a successful songwriter, and you have to be able to make friends because you got to be likable. So I'm glad that you talk about these things cuz it's common knowledge, or it should be.
Well, it's true. I mean, I I think that you could be a brilliant, creative person and be, we probably can't, not be a nice person.
Mhm.
Um, but I wouldn't sign you.
Right.
I've, you know, that doesn't mean that somebody else wouldn't be able to take, take that on. But to me, it is like, you are, it's like you're in a working marriage with that person, and the level of trust, and communication that has to be there is so high
Yeah,
that, yeah, you have to be a person that knows how to connect.
absolutely.
um, and that, again, it comes from knowing who you are, being able, obviously, being able to learn the craft of songwriting and say things in a unique way. But yeah, you have to be someone
Yeah.
that I could go out and, set up a co-write with Megan Barker, or, like,
Yeah.
you have to, I can get you in the room the first time, but you have to get yourself back in the room, kind of
Right.
thing.
Amen. I love that.
Oh,
And it's not like a job where if you don't like it in a few months you can quit. I mean, in music you're signing contracts that last for years. And I think that might be why they say that writers and publishers date for a little bit because you have to know if you're going to work like a family. You have to be a unit. Okay, I'd love to take a step back and talk about your time at ASCAP and your working with writers and the importance of PROs and what your job was on a daily basis and how important PROs are to young unsigned writers.
yeah. I just, I hope this is okay to say, because we are taping this, um, the day that Miss Connie Bradley passed
Oh,
away.
that's right.
And if you guys don't know who she is, you should definitely Google her. And I've done a lot of thinking today about this, because it's not that I knew Connie very well. I feel that I feel even weird saying Connie. I want to say Miss Connie. Um, Even though I did work, I didn't work at ASCAP while she was there, but I was just thinking today about starting on the business side in 1994. Okay. And when you're a receptionist and a tape copy person and all that, those those award shows, the ASCAP awards or the BMI awards or CSAC, like, it's just, it's almost dreamy to get to go. And you don't have a ticket as a receptionist, you know what I mean? And just to work up to the point where I could actually get invited to that award show. I think my first time I got to go was with my friend Scott Gunner, who was an amazing song plugger at this company called Almo Irving, and he took me as his plus one. And the point I'm getting at is, at that show, Miss Connie Bradley was the host of the entire show, and she gave out all the awards for the top songs, the top most performed songs that year. And I didn't realize until today that, I'm sitting out in the audience seeing this, and somehow that soaks into my brain, that it never crossed my mind that it wasn't a possibility to reach a level like that. And there were so many strong women. There was another amazing lady that ran Sony ATV Publishing named Donna Hilly. Frances Preston was the president of BMI for years and years, all so well respected. Joe Walker Metters ran the CMA for many years. Um, Renee Bell was second in command at RCA Records. Like there were so many amazing women that I just never even thought about um, a glass ceiling. I really didn't. And it's because of those women. And it's just really soaking in today that she's responsible for just paving the way for me and so many of my friends. So I did want to say that. Um, but I think the original question was about ASCAP and I at the time I was managing songwriters and producers, which no one had really done in Nashville. Chris Oglesby had a company providing that service, and I worked with Chris there, and we managed Luke Laird and Barry Dean and Jerry Flowers and Steve McEwen and Dan Couch and Scott Stepikoff and Cat Gravitt and probably there's probably others I'm forgetting, but it was just so fun and amazing. Well, um, Tim Dubois asked me to come in for an interview at ASCAP, and I told him what I'd been doing. He said, "Good, I want you to do that here." And so I just thought, wow, okay. So I went over to work with the amazing Tim Dubois, who is again, just look him up.
Yeah.
He was the president of Arista Records and signed Alan Jackson and Diamond Rio and everybody that you love. And so um, Tim asked me to come over, and I learned so much from him. And then Mark Driscoll became the head of ASCAP, learned so much from Mark. And just, Mark was so supportive and in every way. And then when Mark left to go to Seagull, Michael Martin and I became co-heads. And one of the things I can't remember if I think Michael actually said this, if we could um, leave something that would be kind of a legacy there, it would be amazing. Well, one of the I hope we're not going too long, but one of the biggest problems that I saw is that I had all these amazing people and I couldn't really get them in front of publishers like I had hoped, because a lot of the main creative people at publishing houses were just so overloaded with songwriters. A lot of mergers had happened at that time. So that means, catalogs coming together, writers coming together, and a lot of times creative people lost their spot and they just were overloaded. So um, back to the therapy and the all the spiritual stuff. I don't even know why I tell this, but it's the truth. This problem was on my mind. I was blow drying my hair, and it's like this idea just like completely downloaded into my brain, and I just saw the whole thing, and I was like, oh, I know what I can do. I can get together the best of what we see, and then I can call 10 or 12 of my publisher friends and ask them if they'll commit to one meeting a month.
Brilliant.
And then I was like, this has to be under the umbrella of development. Like we all have to still develop writers as a community, which by the way, is what we used to do. There were people like Bobby Reimer and Chris Oglesby and Scott Gunner and Steve Markland that would meet with people after hours and really try to nurture the unsigned writers that they had their eye on. I remember meeting Luke Laird at one of these events that Scott Gunner had put together at Almo Irving after hours. I met Matt Ramsey the same way. Matt would come in and meet with Scott after hours, and Scott asked me to sit in on one of the meetings, and it's part of who we are in Nashville. So one meeting a month and then a follow-up meeting the next month. So that to me solidified making a relationship with that writer. And then the writer would get a new publisher to visit and then, have two meetings with them. So by the end of the year, they would have met six publishers.
Yeah.
So that's how we set it up. And I brainstormed it with my friend Ryan Beisel. And we came up with the name GPS Project, which stands for Guidance from Publishers for Songwriters, GPS. So I thought that was pretty cool. Um, and what happened after that is like people started getting signed left and right out of the program. And I'm really proud that to this day, it is still one of the most sought after programs that a songwriter could be in. And to come full circle, one of the artists, songwriters in my very first workshop, Nicole Miller, just got in the GPS class this year.
Yes. She's how I found out about you. That's right.
Oh, I love her. She's so good.
And so
So good.
I mean, there's also the Next Women of Country that's happened the last few years. So there's all these amazing things the last few years, these new resources that weren't around 10 or 15 years ago. And it does feel like Nashville's nurturing songwriters because there isn't a lot of development anymore. Would you agree?
Um, I think that there is, just because, like I said, it's in our blood here,
Yeah.
and it's coming from more people than just publishers, I think.
Yeah.
And for instance, Leslie Fram at CMT she is amazing. Like, she has come up with so many programs for new artists. She's so open to helping people. When I started the creative therapy workshop, Leslie just kept sending me people. And she's part of Change the Conversation. She's part of the Next Women of Country. During CMA week, she does this amazing showcase for, I think it's Next Women of Country. It's kind of like the showcase for the year. There's now a tour that goes on because of Leslie. Like, and I know her. If she were sitting here now, she would say, "I have a team, and we all work on this together." And everything is a team, by the way, everything. But I just have to point Leslie out in particular, because I just know her heart for artists and creatives. And it's not just women, but she's definitely given that such a huge push. And just to piggyback on my own thought there, it really does take a village to make a career happen,
Yeah.
and it really does start um, at these very early beginning stages. And so there has to be people in on every level of it. Like, there has to be someone in on a workshop or a PRO level that is really helping that early development. And then that next level at a publishing company where it's getting a little more serious, and a lot of times they're the catalyst for the record deals. And then great managers get involved, and promotion people, and the social digital media people, and the PR people, and the band comes together, and the agents, and great attorneys and business managers, all of that. That is why when there is a number one party, you see 200 people there. And one of my biggest pieces of advice to anyone is to let people into your world on the way. Like, if you feel those early committers are there, um, thank them, like, appreciate them as you're going through this. I don't care if it's uh, having a great uh, songwriting session that day, and somebody help connect you with those people. Whatever it is. I had a digital marketer the workshop who, um, she was telling the story about how she was sitting, she worked with Kelsey Ballerini when Kelsey got the infamous Taylor Swift tweet. And this social media person, um, who has her own company now, and oh my gosh, I'm spacing on the company name. But anyway, she was such a big part of that. She felt included in that because that kind of came through her avenue, that she was working with Kelsey with, and there are that everybody just wants to be a part of what you're doing. They're excited for you, and I think the more people you can make feel special as an artist and a songwriter coming up, the more they're going to want to work for you. And you never know where that magic is going to come from. You never know if the receptionist at your co-writer's publishing company just really likes you because you bring her a cup of coffee when you're coming into the building, and then later, down the road, she ends up in an A&R position and wants to hear your songs. I mean, I'm making all this up, but am I?
That's how it happens. It really is.
It's probably happened like that,
Yeah, absolutely. I love everything you talk about. You're so warm and so open, and I love that about you. And you were talking about Leslie, you were talking about Miss Connie, and all these fantastic women. And I have this theory: most bigger executive people that I've met in town, these great leaders, are usually really kind people. So I have this theory that you can't rise to the top in Nashville being a jerk because everyone I've met so far has really been so warm and welcoming and kind. So
Well, it is a place that is unlike any other in that aspect, where I think the catalyst of it is that we all know that we need each other to succeed. And my first lesson in that was being a publisher and knowing that, like, hey, if we get this great song and I've got a co-writer at another great company, just say it was one of Kelly King's writers. I know, like, Kelly's such an awesome publisher plugger, like, she's going to be working the song, I'm going to be working it, where you just, like, you have more chances that way. And then it spills over into label and great managers and great, it's just, we all need each other to pull this off.
it's a team thing.
And I think there's a little more trust in Nashville as opposed to maybe other places where they just want to hang on to it. I think we're used to working, even though we have our silos, our
Yeah,
companies that we're very loyal to, and
right.
that kind of thing. I think we all know how relational and really how small 16th and 17th Avenue are. So you can't really afford to, um, you know, not be liked.
Right, right. Well, I feel like I could chat with you all day, but I want to just ask you a couple specific questions for our followers, because all of our awesome followers, we're all just aspiring songwriters and artists and music industry people. So, when do you need a publishing deal and what do you look for? I mean, this was your job for a long time. What do you look for, and when is someone ready for a publishing deal?
Well, I have, I'll explain it quickly, but I do have this little printout that you can get on my website, that it's called Four Steps Closer to a Publishing Deal. And the reason that I wrote this little piece is because, I was able to look back and see what I actually did. It was instinct, as to how I found writers or why I was signing them, but there were four main points that came into play, and I just find it interesting because, um, the very first thing we've already talked about. The very first thing is connection, and that has nothing to do with the music or anything. It's literally just the human connection,
Yeah.
because somebody's coming in your office, and whether you realize it or believe it or not, there is an energy that you bring, that I bring, and that either works together or it doesn't. So that just initial connection and ability to have a conversation, and I don't know any other way to say it, but connection. That was the first thing that always happened. Then the second thing would be the music, and whether or not I personally liked the music. And actually it's not even that, whether or not I like it. Is it music that I think I can do something with, and so I was in the commercial music business as a publisher, and still am. I want things that people in general are gonna like, and in a more commercial sense. I love all kinds of music, and but there's certain types of music that I don't know how to,
Yeah.
what to do with, other than enjoy it. So commercial music was what I was looking for. So there was that. Did I like the music? Then the third thing that happened was, say I was talking with you, Megan, like getting a feel for where you wanted to go with your career,
Yeah.
meaning, do you want to just be an amazing songwriter? Do you want to write Broadway musicals? Do you want to be an artist? Do you want to write for sync? What is it that you want to do? And do I, can I see those goals for you? So do those things line up? So that was number three. And then number four is, could I help you get there? So, to use the example of, like, say were an incredible jazz musician, and I agreed that yes, that's what you should be doing and all this, but I wouldn't necessarily know how to get you there.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't be something that I would sign. But I find in talking to other people too, there's also this element of, it's, people can't quite explain it. It's just that, but I think it's connection, just this, I don't know, they just wanted to be around that person. And so that's really what I've always looked for. And my latest client, Evan Klein, who is a producer, artist, songwriter, we had all of those things. And when you're working with somebody on the daily, like, you do want to make sure that you communicate well and that you're on the same page, and you're in each other's lives at that point. So
Yeah, I think that's wonderful advice. So they can print this out, you said, on your website.
yeah, at creativetherapy.com. Actually, lpcreativetherapy.com. What is my website? Yeah, it's in,
I'll put
and
a little box there.
yeah, it's on the main page, and just scroll down, and it's a little
That's
thing. But yeah, I just think that's helpful for people to know, because it's like this thing, like, how do I get there? And you actually said this earlier, Megan. It is a courting process in a lot of cases. And there are things that you do as a publisher, like, you're trying to figure out what exactly does this person do. Sometimes you can't tell if the songs, say the first three songs you hear are co-written with different people, and there's not cohesive thing in there that you can discern is that person. So sometimes, you'll hook them up with people in your company, or you'll just want to keep meeting with them, things like that. And actually, we, Forrest Whitehead at Music City Playbook, he and I, this is such a hot topic. We put together a course that you can do on your own called Pub Deal Prep. And uh, it really goes into detail from the songwriter perspective and from the business perspective, from all the hats that I've worn and producer songwriter hats that Forrest has worn. And it really goes into detail on his side, like where he made mistakes in his publishing deals, and his passion is really educating people to know their business. And on my side, it's kind of things like this, like preparing you for those meetings and giving you, the best tools that you can have, if that is your goal, to get to be assigned songwriter.
Yeah.
So yeah, that course, Pub Deal Prep, is I think it's really, really good.
These are amazing tools. I keep saying that, but I just wish this stuff was around before. I mean, between you and Forrest with Music City Playbook, and obviously NSAI kind of, I think, started all of this. And Lance Carpenter's starting something now. And there's Songtown. There's all these amazing resources now, guys. So if you're not taking advantage of all of them, you're crazy. So I feel like I could chat with you all day, but it's been a while. So I'm just gonna ask you one more question, if that's okay. You have started the GPS program, and you worked with amazing artists like Kelsey Ballerini was in it, Carly Pierce, I think Haley Witters.
Well, actually, they were not in GPS. They were in another group that I
Oh,
started, which was a female mentor group.
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, no, but it was right around the time of the, female artists in country being compared to tomatoes on
Oh,
salads.
yeah,
And so that was my answer to that. And
got
it is pretty incredible to look back and go, okay, so Kelsey, Hannah Dasher,
yeah.
Carly Pierce, Julian Jacqueline,
Wow.
Haley for the first couple meetings, Jordan Shellhart, Sarah Beth Tate was in that group, a girl named Bonner Black who's really talented. But I mean, it was pretty stacked, that group, and we had such a great time.
Well, but I guess my question was, though, between all these amazing stories that you've watched unfold, is there one exciting moment that stands out that you could share with us?
Oh my gosh.
Hard to pick one, I'm sure,
I
but just
know
some
there's
inspiring story you can leave everyone with. You've seen some amazing things, I'm sure.
I mean, there's one that I tell in the Pub Deal Prep course that, oh gosh, I'm trying to think if I should save it or, but I mean, I'll just give you the the cliff note of that story. The full story is in Pub Deal Prep, and maybe I won't cry just telling the smaller part of it, but um, basically in 2014, ASCAP turned 100 years old, and so at our award show in Nashville, we decided to give out two awards that year for the most performed songwriter of the last century and the most performed songwriter artist of the last century. So that's pretty heavy just thinking about that. Um, and without all the details, the songwriter artist was Alan Jackson. Um, and Alan, I believe, didn't know that he was getting that award because, you have to, it's a bigger deal for an artist of that caliber to get there, and all of his people have to approve. But the songwriter was completely shocked and surprised and had no idea that we were doing this. So that was Craig Wiseman.
Oh,
And the part of the story I want to tell in here is that I just had such a unique perspective on all of this. Just knowing that the award was coming, and I have to say, as a team, we put this thing together really, really well. And so Craig, shocked, comes up on stage, and I'm standing behind him, um, as one of the co-hosts of the evening, and I knew that he was crying. And the first thing that he said was, "If you've ever written a song with me, please stand up." And from my vantage point behind him, these awards dinners, there were, I think, maybe, I don't know, 1,000 people there, and it's all industry and songwriters, and um, over half the room stood up, and it was just amazing, to that is our community, and I'm really grateful to have gotten to experience that moment, even as a onlooker, because it says so much about who we are and who the songwriters are, and who I hope you continue to be as a part of the Nashville songwriting community. Because Craig immediately, you know I know the people on the podcast won't be able to see this, but he just pointed and
Yeah.
gave one of those. And I mean,
Wow.
this is the first time I've told this without crying. Like, I usually get a big frog in my throat, and the whole story it's pretty amazing.
Well, I can understand why you get a frog in your throat. It makes me emotional. And there's so much in that short story. There's so much to unpack there. I mean, just obviously years and years and years of building something, What a magical moment. I'm really grateful that you shared it with us.
Oh, thank you for asking that question, because that is a great thing to end on.
Yeah.
It's about our community, and I definitely want to continue being a part of that. That I want to be like the um, just the lighthouse for people that are like, what do I do? How do I start? Well, come here and, let me hold space for you, and hopefully, you know, send you on your way a little better prepared than you were.
Well,
So,
you're doing it. It's so special what you do, and we need people like you. So, on behalf of all of us in Nashville, thank you for people like you.
Megan, you're awesome. Well, thank you for having this show, and great luck with the podcast. You're doing, I mean, girl, I think you are working 24/7.
I'm trying. I appreciate that. Lots of concealer, right? That's what we do.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I
And
appreciate.
filters.
That's right. And filters. That's right. Amen. But I appreciate your time today. And, for everybody who's watching, I hope that you're inspired by this. Some people come to town, it happens quickly. And if that's not your story, that's okay. I think we can take that away from everything we talked about today. Everyone's story is different. So y'all stay inspired and go check out everything LeAnn is doing. And we'll have to catch up again soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, LeAnn. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Jamming and Jammie's magic in the air. Head to toe, so cozy. Oh, look out.
Pop, pop, it's showtime. It's showtime. Guess who's back again? Oh, they don't know. Oh, they don't know. I bet they know as soon as we walk in. Wearing fuzzy things, candy rings, St. PJ looking so fly. Don't look too hard, you might hurt yourself. We look too damn good to deny.
At Frisky Frog.
Oh, snap. I'm a dangerous girl with some footies on my feeties. Keep up. So many awesome hits around us, and we're gonna keep them coming. Keep up. Come on down to the frog, and we'll get you Jammie juice, and come on. Riders only.
Put your candy rings up to the moon.
What y'all trying to do?
What y'all trying to do? Jamming and Jammie.